Marcus Ford stood on the roof of his 60-story building, 42 years old and completely alone. The wind whipped his expensive suit jacket around his body as he looked down at the tiny cars and people below. His billions meant nothing now. Not since the scandal that destroyed his reputation, not since his wife left with half his fortune, not since the board had asked him to step down from his own company. Tonight would end it all. No more emptiness, no more fake smiles, no more lonely nights in his massive penthouse. He took one step closer to the edge. "Don't do it." The voice came from behind him, soft but firm. Marcus turned around, annoyed at the interruption. How had anyone gotten access to the private roof? Security would be fired tomorrow, if there was a tomorrow for him. He saw a woman standing by the roof access door. She was black, with her hair in neat braids pulled back from her face. She wore a cleaning uniform with the building management company's logo. One hand rested protectively over her stomach, which showed the clear curve of pregnancy. "This isn't your business," Marcus said coldly. "Go back downstairs." The woman didn't move. "My name is Zara. Zara Williams. And I can't go back downstairs knowing someone is about to jump." "You don't know me." "I know enough," she said. "I clean your office 3 times a week. Been doing it for 2 years. And I know that whatever brought you up here, it's not worth dying for." Marcus laughed bitterly. "What do you know about my life?" "Nothing," Zara admitted. "Just like you know nothing about mine. But I do know about hard times." For some reason he couldn't explain, Marcus stepped back from the edge. "You have no idea." "Try me," she said, walking closer, her pregnant belly leading the way. "I'm guessing your problems involve money, power, and reputation. Mine involve basic survival." Marcus noticed her tired eyes and worn shoes. He'd never really looked at the cleaning staff before. They were invisible to him, like much of the world outside his financial empire. "I lost my job today," Zara continued when he didn't speak. "Not this cleaning job, my day job at the hospital. Budget cuts. I'm 6 months pregnant, have no partner, and just got evicted from my apartment. But I'm still here, still fighting." Something in her determined eyes challenged him. Not pity, which he couldn't have stood, but a quiet strength that caught his attention. "Why should I care about your problems?" he asked, but his voice had lost its edge. "You shouldn't. But maybe care about your own life enough to give it another day. One more day." They stood in silence, the wind the only sound between them. Something shifted in Marcus's chest. Not hope exactly, but maybe a pause in the despair that had driven him to the roof. "If you're going to jump, I can't stop you," Zara said finally. "But I'll have to watch. And I'll have to live with that. My baby will have to live with that energy too." Marcus looked at her, really looked at her. In that moment he saw someone whose problems were real and immediate, yet she stood tall. While he, with all his resources, was ready to end everything. "One day," he heard himself say. "I'll give it one more day." Zara nodded, relief washing over her face. "One day is all anyone has anyway. Tomorrow you get another one." As they walked toward the door together, Marcus didn't know that this unexpected encounter would change both their lives forever. He didn't know that the cleaning woman with the unborn child would teach him how to live again. He only knew that for some reason he would see tomorrow after all. Neither of them realized that night was just the beginning of their story, a story that would face bigger challenges than either could imagine. The morning after the rooftop encounter, Marcus woke in his penthouse feeling strange. For weeks, he'd woken with immediate dread, the weight of his failures crushing him before he even opened his eyes. Today he felt nothing special. Not happy, not restored, but somehow still alive. The memory of the woman on the roof, Zara, drifted through his mind. He showered and dressed automatically, putting on another expensive suit despite having nowhere to go. The board had suggested he take a leave of absence while the company weathered the scandal. It wasn't even entirely his fault. His CFO had cooked the books, but as CEO Marcus took the fall. His reputation was in tatters, his face splashed across business magazines with headlines about failure and fraud. Meanwhile, across town in a small motel room, Zara was counting her money. $212. That's what she had left after paying for a week at this cheap motel. Her larger suitcase contained all her worldly possessions. The smaller one held things for the baby, tiny clothes and blankets she'd bought during happier times when she'd had a stable job and apartment. She placed her hand on her growing belly. "We'll figure it out," she whispered, though she had no idea how. Her phone buzzed, her sister calling again. Zara let it go to voicemail. Her sister had 4 kids in a 2-bedroom apartment. There was no room for Zara there, and they both knew it. When she arrived at the office building for her evening cleaning shift, Zara felt exhaustion deep in her bones. Her back ached from pregnancy, and she hadn't slept well on the lumpy motel mattress. She grabbed her cart of supplies and headed for the executive floor, wondering if she would see the man from the roof. Part of her hoped not. Their encounter had been intense and strange. Marcus wasn't planning to go to the office. What was the point? But by late afternoon, the walls of his penthouse felt like they were closing in. He needed to grab some personal items from his office anyway, he told himself. It had nothing to do with the possibility of seeing the cleaning woman again. The executive floor was quiet when he arrived. Most employees had gone home, and the few remaining averted their eyes when they saw him. Once respected, now an embarrassment. He unlocked his office door and stood in the doorway. It already felt like it belonged to someone else. He was placing photos and awards in a box when he heard the cleaning cart outside his door. Through the glass wall he saw her, Zara, headphones in, moving slowly as she emptied trash cans. Without thinking it through, Marcus opened his door. "Hello again." Zara jumped slightly, pulling out her earbuds. "Mr. Ford. I didn't expect to see you here." "Marcus," he corrected automatically. "And I didn't expect to be here. I just needed to." He gestured vaguely at the box of belongings. An awkward silence fell between them. "What did you say to someone who had talked you off a ledge, literally? How are you?" Zara finally asked, her eyes searching his face with genuine concern that made him uncomfortable. "I'm here," he answered simply. "One day like you said." She nodded, understanding. "That's how it works. One day at a time." Something about her practical approach cut through his self-pity. "And you? How are you and—" He gestured toward her stomach. "We're managing," she said, but he caught the worry in her eyes before she looked away. Marcus suddenly remembered what she'd told him on the roof, losing her main job, facing eviction. "Where are you staying?" he asked abruptly. Zara stiffened. "I'm fine." "That's not what I asked." "A motel," she admitted reluctantly. "Just until I figure things out." Marcus nodded, an idea forming. Not charity, he sensed she wouldn't accept that, but maybe something else. "I have a proposition for you." Zara raised an eyebrow, instantly wary. "What kind of proposition?" "A business arrangement," Marcus said, the plan taking shape as he spoke. "I own several properties in the city. One of them, a small apartment building, needs an on-site manager. The previous one quit last month. The job comes with a free 2-bedroom apartment and a modest salary." Zara's eyes narrowed. "And why would you offer that to me? You don't know anything about me." "I know you saved my life," he said quietly. "And I know you're intelligent and direct. Those are good qualities for a property manager." "Is this real?" she asked, suspicion clear in her voice. "Or is this some rich guy's idea of charity?" "It's business," Marcus insisted. "The building needs management. You need a job and housing. It's mutually beneficial." Zara studied his face, looking for the catch. "I don't know the first thing about managing an apartment building. It's mostly collecting rent, arranging repairs, and handling tenant concerns. I can show you the basics." He paused. "Look, you don't have to decide now. Think about it. Here's my card with my personal number." Zara took the card slowly. "I'll think about it." As she pushed her cart toward the door, Marcus called after her, "Zara? Thank you. For last night." She gave him a small smile. "One day at a time, Mr. Ford." "Marcus," he corrected again. "Marcus," she repeated, and then she was gone, leaving him alone in the office that was no longer his. Neither of them could have predicted how their worlds were about to collide in ways both wonderful and terrifying. 3 days later, Zara stood in the empty apartment, hardly believing what had just happened. The keys felt heavy in her hand, keys to a spacious 2-bedroom with big windows and clean walls. Her new home. Her baby's home. After thinking hard and checking that the job offer was legitimate, she had called Marcus and accepted his proposal. Now here she was, in the building she would manage, with Marcus himself showing her around. "The tenant in 3B always pays late," Marcus was saying as they walked through the building. "And the washing machines in the basement need regular maintenance. I've arranged for a repair company to handle major issues. Their number is in the management binder." Zara nodded, taking mental notes. She was still wary, still wondering why this billionaire was helping her. But the job seemed straightforward enough, and the apartment was clean and safe. Most importantly, it gave her and her baby stability at a time when they desperately needed it. "Why are you really doing this?" she finally asked when they returned to her new apartment. Marcus paused, considering his answer. "I've spent my life making money. That's what I was good at. But that night on the roof I realized I've never really helped anyone. Not directly, not personally. So I'm your good deed? Zara's tone was challenging. No, he said firmly. You're someone who helped me when I needed it. And now I'm in a position to help you. It's not charity, it's an exchange. You get a job in housing. I get a capable manager for my building and... He hesitated, maybe a reminder that there's more to life than what I've been focused on. Zara studied him, then nodded slowly. Okay. But I want to be clear, I'll do this job properly. I don't want special treatment. I wouldn't expect anything less, Marcus replied. I'll check in weekly to see how things are going, but otherwise the building is your responsibility. He handed her a folder. Here's the paperwork, your employment contract, building details and tenant information. After Marcus left, Zara sat on the floor of her empty apartment, emotions overwhelming her. Relief, gratitude, and a lingering wariness all mixed together. She would need furniture and household basics, but she had a home now. Her baby would have a room. She called her sister with the news, carefully explaining that she'd gotten a job as a building manager that included housing. She left out the part about meeting her new boss on a rooftop where he'd been contemplating suicide. Some things were too complicated to explain. For Marcus, returning to his penthouse after helping Zara settle in brought unexpected feelings. His spacious home suddenly seemed excessive and empty. For the first time in weeks, he hadn't thought about his own problems all day. Instead, he'd focused on explaining the building management to Zara, making sure she had everything she needed to succeed. He found himself wondering what she needed for her apartment. She'd mentioned bringing her things from the motel, but how much could that be? On impulse, he called his assistant, one of the few staff members still loyal to him. Janet, I need you to arrange a delivery to one of my properties, he said, then gave her Zara's address. Basic furniture, a bed, couch, dining table, chairs. And whatever a pregnant woman might need. Use your judgment but keep it simple, nothing flashy. Have it delivered tomorrow morning. Of course, Mr. Ford. Is there a card to go with it? Marcus thought for a moment. Just say it's part of the job package. The next morning, Zara opened her door to find delivery people bringing in furniture, kitchen essentials, and even a crib and changing table for the baby. Her first instinct was to refuse it all. She was not a charity case. But the delivery person handed her a note that simply read, Standard setup for building managers. MF. She knew it wasn't standard, but she also recognized it for what it was, not condescending charity but a genuine desire to help. And with her limited funds, she couldn't afford to turn it down. Her baby needed a safe place to sleep. That evening, her phone rang with an unknown number. Is the furniture acceptable? Marcus asked when she answered. It's more than acceptable, Zara replied honestly. But you know that's not a standard package for building managers. It is now, he said, and she could hear a smile in his voice. How's the job so far? I've met 12 tenants, fixed a leaky faucet in 2A, and collected 2 late rent payments, she reported. Turns out I'm good at this. I had a feeling you would be. A comfortable silence fell between them, surprising both of them with its ease. Thank you, Zara finally said. Not just for the furniture but for the chance. You earned it, Marcus replied. By the way, I had my assistant add you to my contact list as my property manager. If you need anything for the building, you have my authorization to handle it. After they hung up, Zara sat on her new couch, running her hand over the soft fabric. In just 1 week, her life had transformed from desperation to possibility. She wasn't naive. She knew this strange connection with Marcus Ford might be temporary. But for now, she had security for herself and her baby, and that was enough. Across town, Marcus realized he hadn't thought about jumping from any rooftops all day. Instead, he'd thought about Zara's determined eyes and practical approach to her challenges. For the first time in months, he felt something like purpose stirring inside him. It wasn't much, but it was a start. Neither of them knew that this arrangement, born from a moment of crisis, was about to develop into something neither had ever expected to find. Over the next month, Zara settled into her role as building manager with surprising ease. She had always been organized and good with people, skills that served her well in dealing with the tenants. Her pregnancy was advancing, now at 7 months, but she maintained her energy, determined to prove herself worthy of the opportunity. Marcus checked in weekly as promised, but their conversations gradually extended beyond business matters. He found himself looking forward to their calls, to Zara's straightforward approach and practical wisdom. She never treated him with the deference he was used to from employees, nor with the resentment he now often faced in business circles after the scandal. On a rainy Tuesday afternoon, Marcus showed up unannounced at the building, telling himself he needed to inspect some maintenance work. The truth was, he was restless in his penthouse and had been thinking about Zara all day. He found her in the basement, expertly fixing the washing machine with tools spread around her. "Should you be doing that in your condition?" he asked, startling her. Zara looked up, blowing a stray braid out of her eyes. "My condition doesn't make me helpless. Besides, the repair company wanted $300 for something I can fix myself." Marcus smiled despite himself. "Saving me money already." "That's my job," she said, but returned his smile as she struggled to stand up. Without thinking, Marcus extended his hand to help her. She hesitated briefly before taking it, allowing him to pull her to her feet. The moment their hands connected, something shifted subtly between them. An awareness that hadn't been there before, or perhaps had been ignored until now. Zara cleared her throat and dropped his hand. "Did you need something? You usually call first." "I was in the neighborhood," he lied. "Thought I'd check on the building." He glanced around the basement. "Everything looks good." Zara raised an eyebrow, clearly not believing his excuse. "I just made lunch upstairs. Nothing fancy, just sandwiches. You're welcome to join me if you want." Marcus was surprised by the invitation but found himself accepting. In her apartment, he noticed how she'd arranged the furniture he'd sent, adding small personal touches, colorful throw pillows, a few framed photos, a small plant on the windowsill. The baby's room door was open, revealing the assembled crib with a mobile hanging above it. "You've made it nice," he commented as she set a sandwich and chips before him at the small dining table. "It doesn't take much to make a place feel like home," she said, easing herself into the chair across from him. "Just a few things that matter to you." They ate in companionable silence for a few minutes before Zara asked, "So, how are things with you?" "Really?" The question caught Marcus off guard. People didn't ask him how he was really anymore. They either avoided him entirely or made polite, surface-level conversation. "I'm existing," he answered honestly. "My lawyers are working to clear my name in the financial scandal. The evidence points to my CFO acting alone, but the damage to my reputation is done." "That must be hard, being blamed for something you didn't do." Marcus shrugged. "I was the CEO. The buck stops with me, as they say. I should have been paying closer attention." "Maybe," Zara conceded. "But that doesn't mean you deserve to lose everything." Her defense of him, simple as it was, touched something in Marcus. "What about you?" he asked, wanting to shift the focus. "How are your doctor appointments going?" "Good," Zara said, her hand automatically moving to her stomach. "Everything's on track for a healthy baby girl." "A girl?" Marcus smiled. "Congratulations." "Thanks. I've been thinking about names but nothing feels right yet." She paused. "I haven't told many people it's a girl. Feels strange that you're one of the few who know." "Strange good or strange bad?" Marcus asked. "Just strange," Zara replied with a small smile. "A month ago you were a stranger on a rooftop. Now you're sitting in my kitchen knowing the gender of my baby." "Life takes unexpected turns," Marcus said, thinking how true that was for both of them. After lunch, he helped her clean up, an activity so domestic it felt surreal given who he was. As he was about to leave, Zara suddenly winced and pressed a hand to her side. "What's wrong?" Marcus asked, alarmed. "Nothing," Zara assured him with a laugh. "She's just kicking. Really hard. Here." Before he could react, she took his hand and placed it on the side of her belly. Marcus froze, completely unprepared for the intimacy of the gesture. Then he felt it, a strong, distinct kick against his palm. "Wow," he breathed, genuinely amazed. He'd never felt an unborn baby move before. "I know, right?" Zara's eyes were bright with maternal pride. "She's strong." "Like her mother," Marcus said softly, their eyes meeting. For a moment they stayed like that, his hand on her belly, something unspoken passing between them. Then, seeming to realize what she'd done, Zara stepped back, breaking the connection. "Sorry," she said quickly. "Pregnant women are always making people feel babies kick. Occupational hazard." "Don't apologize," Marcus assured her. It was incredible. As he drove back to his penthouse, Marcus couldn't stop thinking about that moment. The feel of new life beneath his palm, the look in Zara's eyes, the strange sense of connection he'd felt. It was nothing like the calculated relationships he'd had in the past, where status and appearance mattered most. This was something entirely different, something he had no framework for understanding. Meanwhile, Zara sat in her apartment, confused by her own actions. Why had she grabbed Marcus Ford's hand and placed it on her belly? That was an intimate gesture reserved for close friends and family, not employers. Yet somehow, in that moment, it had felt natural. She reminded herself firmly that Marcus was her boss, nothing more. The fact that they'd met under unusual circumstances and that he'd helped her didn't change the reality of their situation. He was a billionaire, albeit one currently in disgrace, and she was a single mom-to-be working as his building manager. Their worlds might have briefly intersected, but they remained fundamentally separate. Still, as she prepared for bed that night, Zara couldn't help but remember the look of wonder on Marcus's face when he felt her daughter kick. For that brief moment, he hadn't been a wealthy businessman, just a human being connecting with the miracle of new life. Neither of them admitted to themselves that something was shifting between them, something that went beyond gratitude or obligation. Something neither of them had been looking for, but which had found them anyway. 2 weeks passed, during which Marcus found increasingly flimsy reasons to visit the apartment building. A minor repair here, a tenant complaint there, all things that could have been handled over the phone but somehow required his personal attention. Zara pretended not to notice this pattern, just as she pretended not to notice the way her heart beat faster when he arrived. On a warm Saturday morning, Zara was supervising the replacement of the building's front door when Marcus pulled up in his sleek black car. Today, however, he wasn't alone. A stern-looking older man in an expensive suit exited the passenger side, carrying a briefcase. "Zara," Marcus greeted her with unusual formality. "This is Walter Simmons, my attorney." Zara nodded politely, though confusion and a hint of worry crossed her face. "Nice to meet you. Walter needs to speak with us," Marcus explained. "Is your apartment available?" Minutes later, they sat in Zara's living room, the attorney looking out of place among her simple furnishings. "Ms. Williams," Walter began, "I'm handling Mr. Ford's defense in the financial misconduct case. It has come to my attention that he's been spending considerable time at this property, where you are employed as the manager." Zara glanced at Marcus, who looked uncomfortable. "That's correct. Mr. Ford checks on the building regularly." "Very regularly according to his driver," Walter said dryly. "Given the scrutiny Mr. Ford is under, any unusual behavior or new associations attract attention." "Are you saying I'm damaging his case somehow?" Zara asked directly. "I'm saying that the sudden employment of a previously unknown person, followed by frequent private meetings, raises questions. Questions the prosecution or the media might exploit." "Walter," Marcus interrupted sharply. "That's enough. I told you this wasn't necessary." "It's my job to protect your interests," the lawyer replied calmly. "And right now, your interests are best served by maintaining distance from potentially complicating situations." Zara's back straightened. "I understand. You're worried I might be seen as something improper. Or that I might try to take advantage of Mr. Ford's situation." "Ms. Williams, it's nothing personal." "It feels pretty personal from where I'm sitting," Zara cut in. "Let me save you some time, Mr. Simmons. I have no interest in complicating Marcus's life. I'm grateful for the job and apartment, which I work hard to earn. But if my presence is causing problems, I can find another position." "That won't be necessary," Marcus said firmly. "Walter, wait in the car. I need to speak with Zara privately." After the lawyer reluctantly left, Marcus ran a hand through his hair in frustration. "I'm sorry about that. Walter is overzealous in his protection." "But he's not wrong, is he?" Zara asked quietly. "Your reputation is already damaged. Being associated with me, a pregnant black woman with no money or connections, probably doesn't help." The blunt assessment hung in the air between them. "Is that how you see yourself?" Marcus finally asked. "As someone who could only damage my reputation? It's how the world works, isn't it? I'm not naive, Marcus. People like your lawyer look at me and see a liability." "Then they're not seeing you at all," Marcus said with unexpected intensity. "Do you know what I see? Someone who had every reason to give up but didn't. Someone who talked a stranger down from a ledge when she had her own problems to worry about. Someone who fixes washing machines while 7 months pregnant because it's the right thing to do." Zara looked away, uncomfortable with his praise. "You're making me sound better than I am. And you're making yourself sound worse," he countered, moving to sit beside her on the couch. "Look, Walter is concerned about appearances because that's his job. But I don't care how it looks. The truth is—" He paused, seeming to search for words. "The truth is, you're the only person who makes me feel like myself these days. Not the disgraced CEO or the billionaire, just me." The honesty in his voice made Zara meet his eyes. What she saw there, vulnerability mixed with something warmer, made her heart skip. "I don't want to cause you problems," she said softly. "You're the only good thing that's happened to me in months," Marcus admitted. "When I'm with you, I don't think about jumping off buildings." Despite the seriousness of the conversation, Zara couldn't help but laugh. "Well, that's a low bar." Marcus smiled, relieved at the break in tension. "Maybe so. But it's true." He hesitated, then reached for her hand. "I don't know what this is between us, Zara. I just know I don't want it to stop because my lawyer is worried about optics." Zara looked at their joined hands. "What is this between us, Marcus? Because I can't afford to misunderstand." The question hung between them, forcing them to face what they'd both been avoiding. "I think," Marcus said slowly, "that we've both been alone in different ways. And somehow, against all odds, we found a connection. I'm not asking for anything you don't want to give. I'm just asking for the chance to see where this goes." Zara was quiet for a long moment, thinking about all the risks involved, not just for him but for her and her baby. Getting involved with anyone right now was complicated enough. Getting involved with someone like Marcus Ford seemed impossible. But then she remembered the roof, how close he'd come to ending everything. How their brief encounter had somehow changed both their paths. Maybe some connections couldn't be explained or justified, they simply existed. "My life is about to get very complicated," she said, gesturing to her pregnant belly. "And yours already is complicated. That's a lot of complication." "I'm good at solving complex problems," Marcus replied with a small smile. "It's kind of my specialty." Zara found herself smiling back. "One day at a time?" "One day at a time," he agreed, squeezing her hand. When Marcus left that day, after Walter had given them both disapproving looks, something fundamental had changed. The pretense that they were merely employer and employee had fallen away, leaving a truth neither had planned for but both now acknowledged. They cared for each other in ways that defied explanation. Neither knew exactly what shape this caring would take, or how it would withstand the pressures of their different worlds. But for now, the simple recognition was enough, a foundation on which something unexpected might grow. As Marcus drove away, Zara felt her baby kick strongly, as if responding to her mother's racing heart. "I know," she whispered, placing a hand on her belly. "This wasn't part of the plan. But maybe, just maybe, it's better than anything I could have planned." The peace that Marcus and Zara had found together was short-lived. 3 days after Walter's visit, the storm broke. Marcus was in a meeting with his legal team when his phone buzzed with an urgent text from Zara. "Turn on the news. Channel 8. Excusing himself, he stepped into the hallway and pulled up the news on his phone. His stomach dropped when he saw the headline scrolling across the bottom of the screen. "Disgraced CEO Marcus Ford's new girlfriend, gold digger or true love?" The camera cut to footage of him entering Zara's apartment building, then to a grainy shot of them talking by her front door. The reporter's voice dripped with insinuation. Sources close to Ford say the mysterious pregnant woman appeared in his life shortly after his financial scandal, raising questions about her motives and timing. Marcus swore under his breath and immediately tried calling Zara. No answer. He texted, "I'm coming over. Don't talk to anyone." When he arrived at the building 20 minutes later, a small group of reporters was already gathered outside. They swarmed his car, shouting questions. "Is she carrying your child, Mr. Ford? How long have you known her? Did you give her the building management job in exchange for companionship?" Marcus pushed through them without comment, his face set in a hard mask. Inside he found Zara in her apartment, blinds drawn, looking pale and upset. "They've been calling the building phone non-stop," she said as soon as he entered. "Some of the tenants called to complain. A reporter tried to bribe Mrs. Peterson in 2C for information about us." Marcus's jaw tightened. "I'm so sorry, Zara. I never thought they'd drag you into this." "Well, they have." Her voice was strained. "They're saying I'm after your money. That I timed my pregnancy to trap you, which is ridiculous since we only met 3 months ago." Marcus ran a hand through his hair in frustration. This is Walter's nightmare scenario. The media loves a scandal, and a billionaire with a pregnant mystery woman is too juicy for them to ignore. "They called me your charity case," Zara said quietly, the words clearly having stung. "Said you have a pattern of rescuing women." "That's completely false," Marcus said firmly. "Is it? You did rescue me in a way. Gave me a job and apartment. That's different. You helped me first, remember? The roof?" His voice softened. "Zara, please don't let them twist what happened between us." She sat heavily on the couch, one hand resting protectively on her belly. What did happen between us, Marcus? We've been dancing around it for weeks. Are we friends? Employer-employee? Something else? The question hung in the air, demanding an answer neither of them had fully formulated yet. I care about you, Marcus said finally. More than I expected to. More than makes sense given how short a time we've known each other. I care about you too, Zara admitted. But caring isn't always enough. Not with the whole world watching and judging. Before Marcus could respond, his phone rang. Walter. With a grimace, he answered and put it on speaker. The board is calling an emergency meeting, the lawyer said without preamble. This new scandal is the last thing they wanted. They're talking about forcing you to sell your remaining shares. They can't do that, Marcus argued. They can make your life very difficult if you don't cooperate, Walter countered. Marcus, you need to distance yourself from this situation immediately. Issue a statement that Ms. Williams is merely an employee. Emphasize that any other characterization of your relationship is false. Marcus glanced at Zara, whose face had gone carefully blank. I won't lie, Marcus said firmly. Then at least stay away from her until this blows over. Every time you're seen together, it feeds the story. After he hung up, a heavy silence filled the room. The lawyer's words had laid bare the harsh reality they faced. He's right, Zara said finally. You should stay away. At least until things calm down. Is that what you want? What I want doesn't matter. What matters is protecting yourself, your reputation, your company. Zara stood up, wincing slightly as her back protested. And I need to protect myself and my baby. I can't have reporters harassing me or spreading lies about me being some kind of gold digger. Marcus felt a surge of frustration. So we let them dictate our lives? Our choices? Welcome to my world, Zara said wryly, where other people's perceptions often matter more than the truth. She softened her tone. Look, maybe this is a sign that we need to slow down. Figure out what we really want before we complicate things further. Marcus wanted to argue, to insist that they could face this together, but he saw the weariness in her eyes. The last thing she needed right now was more stress, especially in her condition. Okay, he conceded reluctantly. We'll take a step back. But I'm not abandoning you, Zara. I'll handle the media and make sure you're protected. And when this dies down, we'll figure out what comes next. Zara nodded, relieved yet somehow disappointed at the same time. That seems best. Before leaving, Marcus arranged for security at the building to keep reporters away. He also gave Zara a private number to reach him if she needed anything. Their goodbye was awkward, both of them aware that the simple connection they'd been building had suddenly become infinitely more complicated. As days passed, true to his word, Marcus stayed away. The media coverage continued, with speculation growing wilder in the absence of facts. Some outlets claimed Zara was carrying Marcus's child. Others suggested she was blackmailing him. A few even fabricated a romantic history that had them meeting years ago. Zara tried to ignore it all, focusing on her work and preparing for her baby's arrival. But the stress took its toll. She felt constantly watched, judged. Tenants gave her curious looks. Her sister called, demanding to know if what she was seeing on the news was true. Of course not, Zara told her wearily. I barely know him. He's just my boss. The half-truth tasted bitter on her tongue. Meanwhile, Marcus faced his own battles. The board meeting had been brutal, with several members openly suggesting he should resign completely from the company he'd built from nothing. Only his significant ownership stake prevented them from forcing him out entirely. The company cannot afford another scandal, the chairman had said coldly. First financial impropriety, now this liaison with an employee. Marcus had held his temper barely. There has been no impropriety of any kind. Ms. Williams is a capable employee who manages one of my properties. Any other characterization is media fabrication. They didn't believe him. He could see it in their eyes. To them, a man like him couldn't possibly have an innocent relationship with a woman like Zara. Their assumptions revealed more about them than about the situation. 2 weeks passed with no contact between them beyond necessary business texts. Marcus was miserable, finding himself checking his phone constantly for messages from Zara that never came. He missed their conversations, her direct manner, the way she saw through his defenses. Then late one night, his phone rang with Zara's number. Marcus, her voice was tight with pain. I need help. The baby, something's wrong. I'm having contractions, but it's too early. Marcus was already grabbing his keys. I'm on my way. Have you called an ambulance? They said it'll be 20 minutes. I don't think I have 20 minutes. I'll be there in 10, he promised, already racing to his car. When he reached her apartment, Zara was doubled over on the couch, face contorted with pain. Without hesitation, Marcus scooped her into his arms and carried her to his car, ignoring the startled looks of a tenant in the hallway. "Hang on," he urged as he sped toward the hospital, breaking every traffic rule. "We're almost there. Just breathe." Zara clutched his arm, her nails digging into his skin. "It's too early," she gasped between pains. "She's not ready." "She's got your fighting spirit," Marcus said, trying to keep her calm while his own heart raced with fear. "She'll be fine. You'll both be fine." At the hospital, everything happened in a blur. Zara was whisked away on a gurney while Marcus filled out paperwork, claiming to be her partner to ensure he wouldn't be blocked from information. When a nurse finally came to update him, the news wasn't good. "Ms. Williams is experiencing preterm labor at 32 weeks. We're trying to stop the contractions, but her blood pressure is dangerously high. It could be preeclampsia, which is serious. We may need to deliver the baby early for both their safety." Marcus felt a cold fear unlike anything he'd experienced before. The thought of losing Zara, this woman who had saved him in more ways than one, was unbearable. "Do whatever you need to do," he told the medical team. "Money is no object. Get the best specialists, the best equipment." Hours passed in the sterile waiting room. Marcus ignored calls from Walter and the board, focused solely on news of Zara and her baby. When his phone buzzed with an unknown number, he almost ignored it, but something made him answer. "Is this Marcus Ford?" a woman's voice asked. "Yes." "Who's this?" "I'm Maya Williams, Zara's sister. The hospital called me as her emergency contact. They said you brought her in?" Marcus cleared his throat. "Yes. I got her here as quickly as I could." Pause. "The nurse said you told them you're her partner." "I needed to make sure I'd have access to information," Marcus explained. "I wasn't trying to overstep." Another pause. "Are you the same Marcus Ford that's been all over the news with my sister?" "Yes," he admitted. "But it's not what the media is making it out to be." "What is it then?" Maya challenged. Marcus closed his eyes, suddenly exhausted by pretense. "It's complicated. We met under unusual circumstances. I care about her. More than I probably should, given how short a time we've known each other. But I swear to you I have no ulterior motives. I just want her and the baby to be okay." The silence on the other end of the line stretched so long Marcus thought Maya had hung up. "My sister is all I have," she finally said. "Our parents are gone. It's just us. If you're playing some kind of game with her feelings." "I'm not," Marcus said firmly. "I would never hurt her intentionally." "But you could hurt her unintentionally," Maya pointed out. "Men like you don't usually end up with women like us. Not for keeps." The brutal honesty struck Marcus like a physical blow. Before he could respond, a doctor appeared in the waiting room doorway. "Mr. Ford? We need to take Ms. Williams to surgery immediately. The baby is in distress and her condition is deteriorating." Marcus's blood ran cold. "Surgery? But will they be all right?" "We're doing everything we can," the doctor said, which wasn't really an answer. "Ms. Williams is asking for you." Marcus followed quickly, telling Maya he had to go and promising to call her back. In the pre-op area, Zara looked small and vulnerable on the hospital bed, monitors beeping around her. When she saw Marcus, tears filled her eyes. "I'm scared," she whispered as he took her hand. "I know," he said gently. "But you're the strongest person I've ever met. You can do this. You and your little girl." Zara squeezed his hand. "If something happens to me—" "Don't," Marcus interrupted. "Nothing is going to happen to you. Just listen," she insisted weakly. "If something happens, make sure my baby is taken care of. Promise me." The request stunned Marcus. "Zara? Promise me, Marcus. I need to know she'll be okay." Marcus's throat tight with emotion. "I promise. But you're going to be fine. Both of you. And when this is over, no more staying away. No more caring what other people think or say. Life's too short and too precious for that." A tear slipped down Zara's cheek as she nodded. Then the medical team was moving her, telling Marcus he had to wait outside. As they wheeled her away, Marcus felt a profound fear unlike any he'd known before, not for himself but for Zara and her unborn child. In that moment he realized something with absolute clarity. Somewhere between that night on the rooftop and this moment in the hospital, he had fallen in love with Zara Williams. And now he might lose her before he ever got the chance to tell her. The waiting room clock ticked relentlessly as Marcus paced, unable to sit still. 2 hours had passed since they'd taken Zara into surgery. 2 hours without news, without knowing if she and the baby were alive or... He couldn't complete the thought. Maya arrived, eyeing him warily as she introduced herself. In person he could see the family resemblance, the same determined set of the jaw, the same direct gaze. But where Zara's eyes had gradually warmed to him, Maya's remained cool and assessing. "Any news?" she asked. Marcus shook his head. "Nothing yet." They sat in tense silence for several minutes before Maya spoke again. "So how did you two really meet? And don't give me the employer-employee line from the news." Marcus hesitated, then decided that only the truth would do. "We met on the roof of my office building. I was planning to jump. She talked me down." Maya's eyes widened. "What?" "It's true. I was at my lowest point after the scandal broke. I'd lost everything that mattered to me, or so I thought. Zara was working late, cleaning the executive floor. She found me on the roof and convinced me to give life one more day." He gave a hollow laugh. "It sounds melodramatic, but she saved my life that night." Maya studied him, perhaps seeing him clearly for the first time. "And then you gave her the apartment manager job?" "Not right away. But yes, eventually. She'd lost her main job and was facing eviction. I had a building that needed management." He met Maya's gaze directly. "It wasn't charity. She's excellent at the job." "And then you fell for her," Maya stated, not a question. "I didn't plan to," Marcus admitted. "Neither did she." Before Maya could respond, a doctor appeared in the doorway, still in surgical scrubs. Both Marcus and Maya stood immediately. "The baby is stable," the doctor said without preamble. 4 pounds 2 ounces. Small, but her lungs are functioning well with some support. She'll need to stay in the NICU for a while, but her prognosis is good." Relief flooded Marcus, but it was short-lived. "And Zara?" he asked, his heart in his throat. The doctor's expression turned grave. "Ms. Williams experienced severe hemorrhaging during the emergency C-section. We're still working to stabilize her. She's lost a lot of blood, and her blood pressure remains dangerously low. The next few hours will be critical." Maya gasped, her hand going to her mouth. Marcus felt as though the floor had dropped away beneath him. "What are her chances?" he managed to ask. "We're doing everything we can," the doctor said, which wasn't really an answer. "She's young and otherwise healthy, which works in her favor. You can see the baby briefly if you'd like, but Ms. Williams is still in surgery." In the NICU, Marcus and Maya stood over the tiny incubator that held Zara's daughter. She was impossibly small, with tubes and wires connecting her to machines that beeped steadily. Despite everything, Marcus felt a surge of protective love for this tiny fighter. "She looks like Zara," Maya said softly. "Same nose, same chin." "She's beautiful," Marcus agreed, his voice thick with emotion. "Does she have a name?" a nurse asked gently. "For the records?" Maya shook her head. Zara hadn't decided yet. "Hope," Marcus said suddenly. When both Maya and the nurse looked at him, he explained, "Zara told me she was still thinking about names. But given everything, Hope seems right. If Zara wants to change it when she wakes up, she can." Maya nodded slowly. "Hope. I think my sister would like that." As they left the NICU, Marcus's phone buzzed. Walter again. With a sigh, he stepped away to answer it. "Marcus, where are you? The board is furious. There are reporters camped outside your penthouse, and the company stock is dropping with every new tabloid story about you and this woman." "This woman," Marcus repeated coldly, "is fighting for her life right now after giving birth prematurely. So forgive me if I don't give a damn about the stock price at the moment." A stunned silence. "You're at the hospital? With her?" "Yes. And I'm staying here until I know she's going to be all right." "Marcus, think about what you're doing," Walter urged. "The optics." "I don't care about the optics." Marcus exploded, drawing stares from nearby nurses. He lowered his voice. "For once in my life, I'm doing what matters, not what looks good. Tell the board they can fire me if they want. Tell the press whatever you need to. I'm staying here." He hung up before Walter could respond and turned to find Maya watching him with an unreadable expression. "You really do care about her," she said. "More than I knew was possible," Marcus admitted. Hours stretched into a day, then 2. Zara remained in intensive care, her condition gradually stabilizing but still serious. Marcus refused to leave the hospital, catching brief naps in the uncomfortable waiting room chairs and showering in the staff facilities when a sympathetic nurse showed him where they were. He spent hours beside baby Hope's incubator, talking softly to her, telling her about her brave mother and how much she was loved. Sometimes Maya joined him, the two of them forming an uneasy alliance in their vigil. On the third day, as he sat beside Zara's bed, holding her still hand and willing her to wake up, Her eyes finally fluttered open. Marcus. Her voice was a hoarse whisper. I'm here, he said, blinking back tears of relief. I'm right here. My baby? She's perfect, he assured her. Small but mighty just like her mom. The doctors say she's doing better than expected. Zara's eyes filled with tears. I want to see her. As soon as you're strong enough, Marcus promised. She's well taken care of, I promise. Maya's with her now. Zara's eyes widened. Maya's here? You met my sister? We've been keeping each other company, Marcus said with a small smile. She's been making sure I eat and occasionally sleep. She hates everybody, Zara said weakly. Especially rich guys in suits. Then we're making progress because I think she only mildly dislikes me now. That drew a faint smile from Zara, which Marcus counted as a victory. Then her expression grew serious again. They said I almost died. Marcus swallowed hard. Yes. You scared us all. Did you name her Hope? Zara asked unexpectedly. Surprised, Marcus nodded. How did you know? I heard you, Zara said softly. When I was, wherever I was. I heard you talking to her, calling her Hope. Her eyes met his. You stayed. Of course I stayed. Even with the reporters and the board and everything? None of that matters, Marcus said simply. You matter. Hope matters. Zara studied his face for a long moment. Why? Marcus took a deep breath. The words he'd been holding back for days, maybe weeks, could no longer be contained. Because I love you, Zara. I think I started falling in love with you that night on the roof, and every day since has only made it clearer. I love your strength, your directness, the way you see the real me. I love how you face every challenge head-on. I love that you saved my life and then somehow gave me a reason to live it. Tears spilled down Zara's cheeks. Marcus. You don't have to say anything back, he hurried to add. I know this is a lot. I know our worlds are different. I know there are 1,000 reasons why this might not work. But I needed you to know. And I needed you to know that I'm not going anywhere, no matter what anyone says or thinks. Zara was quiet for a long moment, and Marcus felt a flutter of fear that he'd said too much too soon. But then she slowly lifted her hand to touch his face. I thought I was being stupid, she whispered. Falling for someone like you. What would a billionaire want with a pregnant cleaning woman with nothing to her name? Everything, Marcus answered. I want everything you're willing to give. I love you too, Zara admitted, her voice gaining strength. Against all logic and reason. Despite all the complications. I love you, Marcus Ford. The simple words were like a sunrise after the longest night, illuminating all the dark corners of doubt and fear. Marcus leaned forward and gently, carefully kissed her, mindful of her fragile state. When they parted, Zara smiled. Now take me to see my daughter. Despite the doctor's protests, Marcus arranged for Zara to be wheeled to the NICU. There, with tears streaming down her face, she reached into the incubator to touch her daughter's tiny hand for the first time. She's so small, Zara whispered. But strong, Marcus assured her. The nurses say she's a fighter. Hello, Hope, Zara said softly. I'm your mom. I'm sorry I couldn't keep you safe inside longer, but we're going to be okay now. As they watched the tiny baby, Marcus's arm around Zara's shoulders, they knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy. There would be medical challenges for Hope, recovery for Zara, and undoubtedly more scrutiny and judgment from the outside world. But in that moment, none of it mattered. They had found each other against impossible odds. Everything else they would face together. 1 week after Hope's birth, the media firestorm reached new heights. Someone at the hospital had leaked information about the emergency delivery and Marcus's constant presence. The headlines were everywhere: Billionaire's secret baby drama, Ford keeps bedside vigil for mystery woman, love in the ICU, Marcus Ford's new family? For once, Marcus didn't care. Zara was recovering steadily, though still weak from the ordeal. Hope remained in the NICU but was gaining strength daily. The doctors were cautiously optimistic that she would suffer no long-term effects from her premature birth. Marcus had moved into a hotel near the hospital, refusing to leave Zara and Hope even as his professional world imploded around him. The board had called an emergency vote and removed him as chairman, though they couldn't force him to sell his shares. His company's stock had dropped 10%. Old friends and business associates were distancing themselves, unwilling to be tainted by association. None of it mattered to Marcus. For the first time in his life, his priorities were crystal clear. On a quiet evening as Zara sat beside Hope's incubator, Maya pulled Marcus aside in the hospital corridor. We need to talk, she said without preamble. About what happens next. Marcus nodded, bracing himself. Despite their uneasy truce, he knew Maya remained protective of her sister and skeptical of his intentions. Zara will be discharged soon, Maya pointed out. Hope will need to stay longer. Where does she go? Back to the apartment? With reporters camped outside. I've been thinking about that, Marcus admitted. I have a property outside the city. Private, gated, with good security. Zara and I could stay there until Hope is released, then all three of us could remain there while we figure out next steps. Maya studied him. And what are those next steps? You planning to play house for a while until you get bored or until the scandal affects your bottom line too much? The question stung, but Marcus understood its source. I love your sister, Maya. And I already love Hope. This isn't temporary for me. Men like you. Don't say men like me again, Marcus interrupted, a rare edge in his voice. You don't know me. You know a headline version of me that isn't real. The real me is the guy who was broken enough to stand on a roof ready to end it all until your sister showed me another way. The real me is the man who hasn't left this hospital in a week because the two most important people in my world are here. Maya seemed taken aback by his intensity. Fine. But what about your world? Your company? Your social circle? Are you really ready to give all that up? I'm not giving anything up, Marcus said firmly. I'm gaining everything that matters. The company will survive with or without me at the helm. True friends will stand by me. As for the rest, the parties, the social climbers, the business dinners, I don't need any of it. And if Zara doesn't fit into that world? Then we'll create our own world, Marcus replied simply. One where we both belong. Maya was quiet for a moment, then asked the question that clearly concerned her most. And the baby? Are you planning to be Hope's father? If Zara will let me, Marcus said honestly. I already love her as if she were my own. Maya nodded slowly. You should talk to Zara about all this. Make sure you're on the same page. I will, Marcus promised. Tonight. Later, as Zara rested in her hospital room after spending hours with Hope, Marcus sat beside her bed, gathering his courage. Maya thinks we need to talk about what happens next, he began. Zara smiled tiredly. My sister always gets straight to the point. It's one of her better qualities. It runs in the family, Marcus said with an answering smile. Then he grew serious. She's right though. You'll be discharged soon. We need a plan. I can go back to the apartment, Zara said. Be close to the hospital for Hope. Marcus shook his head. There are reporters outside the building. You wouldn't have any peace. He hesitated, then forged ahead. I have a house outside the city. Secluded, secure. We could go there, both of us, until Hope is released. And after that, well, that's what I really want to talk about. Zara's eyes searched his face. What are you saying, Marcus? I'm saying I want us to be together, you, me, and Hope. I'm saying I want to build a life with you. I know it sounds crazy. We've known each other such a short time. But when I thought I might lose you, he swallowed hard. Life is too short for caution. Too precious for half measures. Marcus, Zara said softly, your world is so different from mine. I don't belong in your penthouse or your boardroom. You belong with me, he said simply. The rest is just details. Details like the fact that every media outlet is painting me as a gold digger? Like the fact that your business associates probably think I trapped you? Like the fact that my daughter will grow up with all that hanging over her head. Marcus took her hand. We can handle the media. We can prove them all wrong. Not with words but with time. By building a life together that shows the truth of what we feel for each other. Zara was quiet for a long moment, and Marcus felt a flutter of fear that he was pushing too hard, too fast. What about Hope? She finally asked. Where does she fit into all this? Wherever you want her to, Marcus said carefully. I already love her, Zara. I'd be honored to help raise her, to be a father to her if you'd let me. But I understand if that's not what you want. Tears filled Zara's eyes. You'd really do that? Take on another man's child? She's your child, Marcus said simply. That's enough for me to love her. But the truth is I already do. These past days in the NICU watching her fight, talking to her, she's gotten into my heart just like her mother did. Zara wiped away tears. I never expected any of this. When I found you on that roof I was just trying to do the right thing. I never imagined we'd end up here. Life takes unexpected turns, Marcus said, echoing words he'd said to her months earlier. Sometimes they lead us exactly where we need to be. Zara squeezed his hand. I want to say yes to everything you're offering. But I'm scared, Marcus. Scared that one day you'll wake up and regret all of this. Regret us. That will never happen, he promised fervently. But I understand your fear. So here's what I propose. Let's take it one step at a time. First, we focus on getting you and Hope healthy and strong. We go to the house, away from the media circus. When Hope is released from the hospital, we bring her home and learn to be a family. And we see where life takes us from there. Zara nodded slowly. One day at a time? One day at a time, he agreed with a smile. Starting with today. Today I love you. Today I want to be with you. Today that's enough. Today I love you too, Zara whispered. When she was discharged 2 days later, Marcus had everything arranged. A private car with tinted windows took them from the hospital through a service exit, avoiding the reporters at the main entrance. Maya promised to visit daily and keep them updated on Hope's progress during the brief periods they couldn't be at the hospital. The house turned out to be a spacious lakeside retreat, surrounded by tall trees and protected by an unobtrusive but effective security system. Inside, it was comfortable rather than ostentatious, with large windows overlooking the water and a warm, welcoming atmosphere. This doesn't look like you, Zara commented as Marcus showed her around. What do you mean? It's not sleek and modern like your penthouse. Feels lived in. Comfortable. Marcus smiled softly. This was my parents' house. The only thing I kept after they died. I never brought business associates here, never hosted parties. It was just for me. The fact that he had brought her to this private sanctuary, this place he had kept separate from his public life, told Zara more than words could about his feelings. Over the next 2 weeks they fell into a rhythm. Mornings at the house, afternoons and evenings at the hospital with Hope. The media eventually tired of camping outside when no juicy stories emerged, though occasional articles still speculated about their relationship. Hope grew stronger each day, gradually being weaned off support systems until finally, the doctors declared her ready to go home. The day they brought her to the lake house, Zara couldn't stop crying, tears of joy, relief, and lingering fear. What if I don't know what to do? She whispered to Marcus as they placed Hope in the beautiful nursery he had secretly prepared. We'll figure it out together, he promised. That's what families do. As weeks passed, they settled into their new life. Marcus worked remotely when necessary but delegated most responsibilities to trusted executives. His priorities had shifted irrevocably. The man who had once lived for business deals now lived for baby smiles and quiet evenings with Zara. The board eventually reached out, asking him to return in an advisory capacity. The scandal had faded, replaced by newer, juicier stories about other public figures. Marcus agreed to consult but made it clear his family came first. Family, Zara repeated when he used the word. Is that what we are? It's what I want us to be, Marcus said honestly. Officially, permanently. If you're ready. That night, as Hope slept peacefully in her nursery, Marcus led Zara out to the dock behind the house. The moon reflected on the lake, creating a path of light across the water. I've been thinking a lot about paths, Marcus said, taking her hands in his. About how one moment, one choice can change everything. If you hadn't been working late that night, if you hadn't come to the roof. If you hadn't offered me the job, Zara continued softly. If I hadn't accepted. So many chances for us to miss each other, Marcus marveled. But here we are. Here we are, Zara agreed, looking up at the man who had transformed her life just as she had transformed his. Marcus took a deep breath. I had a whole speech planned. Something eloquent about second chances and finding light in darkness. But the truth is simpler than that. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small box. I love you, Zara Williams. You and Hope are everything to me. Will you marry me? The ring inside was beautiful but not ostentatious. A perfect oval diamond on a simple band. Just like the house, it showed that Marcus understood her, knew what would resonate with her more than flashy displays. Zara felt tears well up again. She seemed to cry so easily these days, motherhood having opened new emotional channels. Are you sure? The media will go crazy again. You're bored. I don't care about any of that, Marcus interrupted gently. I only care about you saying yes. Zara looked into his eyes, seeing nothing but sincerity and love. The journey from that rooftop to this moment had been unlikely, unexpected, and at times incredibly difficult. But it had also been real, built on a foundation stronger than either of them could have imagined. Yes, she said simply. Yes, I'll marry you. As Marcus slipped the ring onto her finger and pulled her into his arms, Zara knew that their story would never be conventional. They would always face skeptics, always battle preconceptions. But they would do it together, one day at a time, building the life they'd found against all odds. And that was enough. More than enough. It was everything. The news of their engagement spread quickly, reigniting media interest. This time, however, Marcus and Zara controlled the narrative. They gave a single interview to a respected journalist, telling their story on their own terms, from the rooftop meeting to Hope's dramatic arrival. "It's not a fairy tale," Zara said candidly during the interview. "It's messy and complicated and real. But it's our story," Marcus added, his hand resting protectively on hers. "And we're proud of it." The article, titled From Rooftop to Altar, Marcus Ford's Journey Back from the Edge, was surprisingly respectful. It focused on themes of redemption, unexpected connections, and the power of seeing beyond social boundaries. Most importantly, it featured a beautiful family photo of Marcus, Zara, and baby Hope, looking genuinely happy together. Public perception began to shift. What had been scandalous gossip transformed into something closer to a modern love story. There were still cynics, still those who predicted it wouldn't last, but Marcus and Zara didn't waste energy worrying about them. 6 months after Hope's birth, they married in a simple ceremony at the lake house. Only close friends and family attended, including Maya, who had finally warmed to Marcus, and a few loyal business associates who had stood by him through the scandal. Zara wore an elegant but understated gown. Hope dressed in a tiny matching outfit as she was held by her proud Aunt Maya during the ceremony. When Marcus and Zara exchanged vows, there wasn't a dry eye among the guests. "I promise to remind you every day that life is worth living," Zara said, her voice steady despite her tears. "To build a home with you where we both belong regardless of where we came from." "I promise to never take for granted the second chance you gave me," Marcus replied. "To love you and Hope with everything I am, and to create a life with you that matters more than any business I could ever build." As they settled into married life, they faced the practical challenges of blending their worlds. Marcus gradually returned to business, though with a new perspective and priorities. Zara pursued her own ambitions, using some of Marcus's connections to secure funding for a nonprofit focused on supporting single mothers in crisis. "I've been where they are," she explained when presenting her business plan to potential donors. "I know what it means to feel like you've run out of options. Everyone deserves a helping hand when they need it most." Her organization, which she named Second Chances, quickly gained support and recognition. Marcus was her biggest champion, proudly watching as she transformed her personal struggles into a mission to help others. Not everyone accepted their relationship, of course. At business functions, Zara occasionally overheard whispers or caught disapproving glances. Some of Marcus's former associates maintained a polite but clear distance. But for every person who rejected them, there were others who saw the genuine love between them and responded to it. Hope thrived, growing from the tiny NICU baby into a happy, healthy toddler with her mother's determined spirit and her adoptive father's curious mind. Marcus formally adopted her on her first birthday, a day that brought both celebration and reflection. "I couldn't have imagined this life 2 years ago," Marcus said that night after they put Hope to bed. They sat on the dock, their favorite spot for important conversations, watching the moonlight on the water. "I was so lost in what I thought mattered: money, status, reputation. I'd built an empire but had nothing real to show for it. And I was so focused on survival," Zara added, leaning against his shoulder. "Just getting through each day, trying to keep my head above water. I couldn't see beyond the immediate struggles." "We saved each other," Marcus said simply. "We did," Zara agreed. "But we also chose each other, every day since that night on the roof. That's the part I'm proudest of. Not just the rescue but the decision to keep showing up, to keep building something together even when it would have been easier to walk away." As their second anniversary approached, Marcus came home with unexpected news. "The board wants me back as CEO," he announced as they put Hope to bed together. Zara looked up in surprise. "Really? After everything?" "The company's been struggling since I stepped back. The new CEO hasn't been able to maintain investor confidence." He shrugged. "They're suddenly willing to overlook this scandal of our relationship. How do you feel about it?" Zara asked, carefully tucking Hope's favorite stuffed elephant beside her sleeping form. They moved to the hallway, closing the door softly behind them. "I'm conflicted," Marcus admitted. "Part of me wants to tell them to go to hell after the way they treated us. But another part thinks maybe this is an opportunity." "For what?" "To show that success doesn't have to come at the expense of family. To rebuild the company with different values." He took her hands. "But I won't do it if you're not completely on board. We're a team." Zara thought about it carefully. "You miss it, don't you? The challenge, the work itself?" Marcus nodded. "Some aspects, yes. but not the person I was then. You're not that person anymore, Zara assured him. If you want to go back, I support you. Just remember what matters most. I never forget, he promised. Not for a second. The transition back to corporate life wasn't without challenges. The first time Zara accompanied Marcus to a company function, she felt the weight of scrutiny from people who had only known her through tabloid stories. But she stood tall beside her husband, no longer the desperate woman from the rooftop but a successful nonprofit founder in her own right. One woman approached them during the cocktail hour, her smile tight and judgmental. So you're the famous Zara, she said, looking her up and down. You've certainly landed on your feet. Before Zara could respond, Marcus stepped in. My wife hasn't just landed on her feet, Barbara. She's built an organization that's helped hundreds of single mothers find housing and employment. What have you accomplished lately? The woman retreated quickly and Zara squeezed Marcus's hand gratefully. You didn't have to defend me, she whispered. I always will, he replied. But the truth is you don't need defending. Your accomplishments speak for themselves. As months passed, Marcus transformed the company culture, prioritizing work-life balance and family-friendly policies. He frequently brought hope to the office, proudly introducing his daughter to colleagues and clients alike. If anyone had concerns about her biological parentage, they kept them quiet after seeing the genuine love between father and daughter. Zara's nonprofit grew as well, eventually partnering with Marcus's company on a major initiative to provide job training and childcare for women re-entering the workforce. The press covered the story extensively, not as scandal but as innovation, a model of corporate social responsibility. On Hope's second birthday, they held a celebration at the lake house, now their permanent home despite the longer commute to the city. Maya was there with her children, along with friends both old and new. As they watched Hope gleefully smash her cake, Marcus put his arm around Zara's shoulders. Happy? He asked softly. Beyond anything I could have imagined, she replied honestly. You? The same. He hesitated, then added, I was thinking, maybe Hope would like a sibling. Zara looked up at him in surprise. Are you serious? Only if you want to, he assured her quickly. But yes, I've been thinking about it. Our family feels perfect but somehow not quite complete. Zara smiled, her eyes filling with happy tears. I've been thinking the same thing. I was just waiting for the right time to bring it up. 6 months later, they gathered their closest friends and family again, this time to announce that Zara was pregnant. The journey hadn't been easy, months of trying, one early miscarriage that left them both heartbroken. But now she was safely into her second trimester. Hope, now old enough to somewhat understand, patted her mother's still flat stomach with awe. Baby in there? That's right, sweet girl, Zara confirmed. You're going to be a big sister. This time, Marcus said, his voice tight with emotion, I'll be there from the very beginning. No complications, no drama. Fate, however, had other plans. Zara's second pregnancy progressed smoothly until her 7th month, when routine tests revealed potential complications. The baby, a boy, was developing normally, but Zara's blood pressure was dangerously elevated, eerily similar to her first pregnancy. Bed rest, the doctor ordered firmly. And we'll monitor you closely. We don't want a repeat of last time. The next weeks were tense. Marcus scaled back his work commitments dramatically, working from home to be with Zara and Hope. The family that had weathered so many storms faced this one together, determined to bring their son safely into the world. Late one night, as rain pounded against the windows of their lake house, Zara woke with sharp pain. Marcus, she gasped, shaking him awake. Something's wrong. One look at her pale face told Marcus everything he needed to know. Within minutes, he had called Maya to come stay with Hope and was helping Zara to the car, trying to project a calm he didn't feel. It's too early, Zara whispered, fear evident in her voice. Just like with Hope. But we know what to expect this time, Marcus reassured her, though his own heart was racing. The doctors are prepared. Everything will be okay. The drive to the hospital was a blur of rain-slicked roads and Zara's increasingly frequent contractions. By the time they arrived, her condition had deteriorated rapidly. The medical team whisked her away to labor and delivery, leaving Marcus in a painful state of déjà vu. Once again waiting, once again praying that the two people he loved most in the world would survive. This time, however, he wasn't alone. Maya arrived shortly after, having arranged for a neighbor to watch Hope. How is she? She demanded. In surgery, Marcus said, his voice hollow. They're doing an emergency C-section. Her blood pressure spiked dangerously. Maya sat beside him, taking his hand in a gesture that would have been unimaginable 2 years earlier. She's strong. Stronger than anyone I know. I can't lose her, Marcus whispered, the words catching in his throat. I can't. You won't, Maya said with a certainty he wished he could feel. This isn't how your story ends. After what felt like an eternity, a doctor appeared in the waiting room doorway. Marcus and Maya both stood, bracing for news. Mr. Ford, the doctor began, her expression giving nothing away. Your son has been delivered. He's small, 5 pounds 3 ounces, but his vitals are stable. He's being taken to the NICU for observation. And Zara? Marcus asked, scarcely able to breathe. The doctor's face softened. Your wife experienced some complications similar to her first delivery, but we were better prepared this time. She's stable and recovering. She's asking for you. Relief flooded through Marcus so powerfully that his legs nearly gave way. Maya steadied him, her own eyes bright with tears. Go, she urged. I'll check on the baby. In the recovery room, Zara looked pale but alive. Wonderfully, blessedly alive. When she saw Marcus, she reached for him with a tired smile. We have a son, she whispered. We do, he confirmed, kissing her forehead gently. He's perfect. Just like his mother. I want to see him. Soon, Marcus promised. When you're stronger. Zara's face grew serious. For a minute there, I thought history was repeating itself. That I might not make it this time. Don't, Marcus said, his voice breaking. You're here. You're both here. That's all that matters. Later that day, when Zara was strong enough to sit in a wheelchair, Marcus took her to the NICU. Their son lay in an incubator, smaller than Hope had been but with a determined expression that reminded Marcus powerfully of Zara. He's beautiful, Zara murmured, reaching through the opening to touch his tiny hand. Have you thought about names? Marcus nodded. I was thinking, Marcus, after me. When Zara looked surprised, he explained, Hope got her name because she represented new hope in our lives. This little guy represents legacy, continuation. A chance to pass on not just my name, but the values we've built together. Tears filled Zara's eyes. Marcus Ford Jr. I love it. The next day, Maya brought Hope to meet her new brother. The little girl approached the baby's incubator with wide, curious eyes. That's your brother, Zara explained from her hospital bed. His name is Marcus, like Daddy. Hope studied the baby solemnly, then announced with absolute certainty, I love him. The simple declaration brought fresh tears to Zara's eyes. Family, something she'd feared she might never have, was now the center of her world. When little Marcus was strong enough to leave the hospital, they brought him home to the lake house, completing their family circle. The first few weeks were exhausting but joyful, with Hope proudly helping with her baby brother and Marcus taking extended leave to support Zara's recovery. One evening, as Zara nursed the baby in the nursery, she looked up to find Marcus watching them from the doorway, his expression one of absolute contentment. What? She asked with a smile. Just thinking about how far we've come, he replied. 3 years ago I was standing on a roof, believing I had nothing left to live for. Now I have everything. Zara's eyes softened with memory. Do you ever regret it? Giving up your old life for this one? Marcus crossed the room to kneel beside her chair, looking at his wife and son with undisguised love. There's nothing to regret. I didn't give up anything that mattered. I gained everything that does. In the golden evening light, with Hope playing in the next room and baby Marcus sleeping peacefully in his mother's arms, they shared a quiet kiss, a simple gesture that contained worlds of meaning, of journeys taken and challenges overcome. Their story hadn't been easy. It hadn't followed any conventional path. It had been marked by crisis, by judgment from others, by medical scares and public scrutiny. But through it all they had chosen each other, day after day. They had built a family that transcended biology, a love that defied expectation, a life that proved second chances were not just possible but profoundly worth fighting for. Outside, the sun was setting over the lake, painting the water in shades of gold and rose. Inside, the family that fate had assembled against all odds prepared for dinner, for bath time, for the 1,000 small rituals that made up a life together. It wasn't perfect. Nothing real ever is. But it was theirs, this family, this love, this unexpected journey from a rooftop to a nursery. And in the end, that was the greatest miracle of all. 3 years to the day after that fateful night on the roof, Marcus and Zara stood together on the dock behind their house, watching Hope chasing fireflies in the gathering dusk while baby Marcus slept in his father's arms. Do you think about it? Zara asked softly. What would have happened if I hadn't been working late that night? Marcus looked down at his sleeping son, then over at his daughter laughing in the twilight. I try not to, he admitted. It scares me to think how close I came to missing all of this. Sometimes the most important moments in our lives don't feel important when they're happening, Zara mused. They just feel like one more hard day, one more challenge to overcome. Until you look back and realize that was the day everything changed, Marcus agreed. As darkness fell, they gathered their children and headed back to the warmth of their home. The billionaire who had lost his will to live and the pregnant woman who had been jobless and alone. Two people who never imagined they could find love together, but who had built something beautiful from the broken pieces of their former lives. One day at a time, step by step, choice by choice, they had created a love story uniquely their own. And as they put their children to bed that night, they knew with absolute certainty that no matter what challenges tomorrow might bring, they would face them together. A family forged in unlikely circumstances but bound by the strongest ties of all. Choice, commitment, and enduring love.